Good morning, Acadiana. It's Wednesday, April 14th, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. And we couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer news readers. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Welcome to Local News Live. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm going to let you take it over, and I'm going to listen along.
All right. Good morning, Acadiana. It is my pleasure to be here with you once again to bring you the news. We'll start, as we typically do, with news from around the Acadiana area. We have quite a few headlines to get to, so we're just going to dive right into that. We begin with this. Acadiana vaccination clinics shift offerings. This is written by Katie Gagliano. COVID-19 vaccination clinics around Acadiana are making adjustments to their vaccine offerings after federal health regulations requested a halt on administration of the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine after some recipients experienced a rare blood clot. Dr. Tina Stefanski, State Office of Public Health Region 4 Director, said the 7 Parish area, including in Region 4, has sufficient supply of Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines to cover all upcoming appointments and scheduled clinics without reducing offered spots. She said the state offered an expedited delivery of additional Pfizer and Moderna doses to cover appointments in the upcoming days. But so far, that hasn't been necessary for Region 4. Scheduled recipients are being notified of the changes by phone or email. Stefanski said they've had some cancellations, quote, but not many. Most people are keeping their appointments. The Region 4 office has been ramping its vaccination registration page since early Tuesday to reflect the changes, which resulted in short-term limits on which clinics were shown as available online. Stefanski said public health leaders have to be smart in planning out which vaccine will be available at which clinic, because they need to ensure the vaccination sites will be available or an alternate location can be booked for the second dose. Stefanski said although the Johnson & Johnson pause could cause some disruption to people's plans, the community should draw confidence from the pause instead of fear. Quote, the systems of monitoring and safety checks are working as intended. We've been hearing it. If there were any safety concerns, the FDA and CDC would be forthcoming with those concerns. And I think that's what we're seeing occur. I think it's very good the transparency is there, she said. Patricia Thompson, spokesperson for Ochsner Lafayette General Medical Center, said the hospital is switching all scheduled appointments for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to Pfizer through the end of April. The change affected approximately 60 patients Tuesday and another 62 that were scheduled through the end of the month, she said. Thompson said all of Tuesday's patients were contacted in advance and all opted to receive the Pfizer vaccine. Team members were in the process of calling the 62 other patients scheduled for Johnson & Johnson doses to discuss the change and make necessary appointment adjustments. The spokesperson said they were not anticipating many cancellations. Quote, the safety of our patients and community is our highest priority. While we have not seen any of our patients experience this type of reaction, we took immediate action upon learning of this guidance and will pause the use of Johnson & Johnson until further notice, a statement said. Elizabeth Arnold, spokesperson for Our Lady of Lourdes Regional Medical Center, referred the Acadian Advocate to a statement from the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System, which includes Lourdes, that said the system's facilities would halt all use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and will move forward with Pfizer and Moderna doses. And now, on to our next headline, which reads, Cost split between parish and city debated. Officials talk trust and transparency at committee meeting. And this is written by Claire Taylor. Two officials who addressed the Protect the City Committee on Tuesday disagreed on the importance of how costs are split between the city of Lafayette and the parish. Lafayette Parish Assessor Conrad Como told the committee as long as there is a mayor-president who can adjust the allocation formula at will to cover shortfalls in parish funds, and unless the city and parish councils push the issue, there is no impetus for abolishing consolidated government. Lori Toops, Chief Financial Officer for Lafayette Consolidated Government under 3 administrations, minimized the importance of how expenses are divided between the city and parish, saying those expenses are only 3 to 5% of the Lafayette Consolidated Government's budget. The Protect the City Committee was appointed by the Lafayette City Council to explore answers to at least 14 questions dealing with whether the consolidation of the city and parish have been beneficial to city residents and taxpayers. The committee is expected to report its findings to the council, which will then consider appointing a Home Rule Charter Commission to decide whether the charter needs amending or if deconsolidation should be presented to voters. For years, residents have questioned whether the city is supplementing the parish side of the Lafayette Consolidated Government because the city historically has had sufficient revenue and the parish has not. Como, who was on the parish council prior to consolidation and served on a transition committee appointed by former Lafayette Parish Mayor President Joel Robideau in 2019, said it was eye-opening to realize there are 25 cost allocation tables. Each mayor-president has changed the method of allocating costs between the city and parish. Former Lafayette Parish Mayor-President Joey Durrell based cost allocations on population, while Robideau, he said, adjusted the formula based on the parish's ability to pay, which meant the city was footing more of the cost of operating Lafayette Consolidated Government. Toops later said Robideau's formula was based on, quote, undictated tax revenue and not the ability to pay. One way to rectify that problem is to find a new revenue source for the parish. Como suggested establishing a parish-wide sales tax district that includes every part of the parish, including cities, abolishing the 1-cent sales tax collected in unincorporated areas and replacing it with a half or third-cent sales tax for parish government. Toops minimized the importance of cost allocation, saying they apply to about 5% of the budget, less than that if capital is removed. Some costs that were once allocated, such as employees in Drainage and Roads Department, are paid entirely with parish funds, she said. Committee member Stuart Breaux said he appreciates that the allocations are a small percentage of Lafayette Consolidated Government's overall budget. But removing city-only operations like fire and police, it's still about $20 million, he said, which is a lot of money when Parks and Recreation is being cut. Toops said it may be possible to track whether every single expense for the city or the parish is for the city or for the parish, but the cost versus benefit has to be considered. Quote, the benefit might be transparency, building public trust, committee member William Leyendecker said. Toops encouraged committee members to look at the big picture and whether the cost paid by the city versus the parish makes sense. For instance, most payroll is for city employees, including Lafayette Utility Systems, LUS Fiber, and the Police and Fire Department. Would it be fair and equitable to split the cost of employees who work in payroll equally between the city and the parish? Saying she didn't want to get involved in the politics of any deconsolidation discussion, Toops said, quote, as long as you have a consolidated government, you're always going to allocate administrative cost. Some of the Robideau-appointed transition committee realized, Como said, that the current setup of Lafayette Consolidated Government is not tenable in the long term for a number of reasons. One being the mayor-president's loyalties are split between the city and the parish. Splitting that office into a mayor and a parish administrator may seem like an option, but opens up another set of problems, he said, like who is in charge of department heads. That could be resolved by creating a city department head and a parish department head, which opens another set of problems. Lafayette City Consolidated Government's quasi-consolidation, with 5 municipalities retained their own mayor and councils, was modeled in part after East Baton Rouge Parish, Como said, where there has been talk of deconsolidation. He said 2 new cities were created in the past 1,015 years as people moved outside of Baton Rouge. Calling it an, quote, experiment gone wrong, he questioned what will happen to parish government in Baton Rouge. Quote, "The handwriting is on the wall in Lafayette Parish," Como said. With that, we will now take a short break from the headlines for this announcement. The United Way of Acadiana is offering free tax preparation services through its Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. The program provides low and moderate income individuals and families with free, reliable assistance with filing federal tax returns. There are 12 filing locations participating this year throughout the Acadiana region. Most locations are by appointment only due to COVID-19 safety restrictions. Please visit unitedwayofacadiana.org/VITA for site locations, opening dates, and to make appointments. For additional resources, visit myfreetaxes.com to learn more about alternate free or low-cost filing options currently available. The VITA program is just one way the United Way of Acadiana is working to help individuals and families achieve and maintain financial stability. Learn about additional programs by visiting unitedwayofacadiana.org. And with that, we will now jump right back into our headlines from across the Acadiana area. Our next reads, Community Fund established to assist tornado victims. 15 Palmetto homes damaged or destroyed by storm. And this is written by Katie Gagliano. Charitable groups in St. Landry Parish are banding together to support families devastated by Saturday's tornado in Palmetto. The Hope Alliance Community Develop Corporation, affiliated with New Life Church of God in Palmetto, has partnered with the St. Landry Foundation, an affiliate of the Community Foundation of Acadiana, to launch a fund to provide immediate relief to storm victims. Roger Erickson of the National Weather Service in Lake Charles said in a preliminary report the tornado was an EF3 with maximum winds of approximately 140 miles per hour. It first touched down at about 2:06 a.m. and cut a path 8.7 miles long through the Palmetto area of St. Landry Parish. The storm killed 27-year-old Jose Antonio Higarda and injured 7 others. 15 homes were damaged or destroyed along the tornado's path. Numerous trees and power lines were snapped, and barns, outbuildings, and other outdoor structures were destroyed. The most severe damage was along Bolden Road. Dale Fontenot, president of the Hope Alliance Community Development Corps, said Palmetto residents immediately began reaching out for ways to assist the affected families as news of the storm spread Saturday. The nonprofit usually works in youth and youth adult spaces, offering educational support and food security assistance in the area. Fontenot said the Hope Alliance recognized it had the infrastructure and community relationships in place to ramp up quickly in response to residents' pressing post-storm needs. Quote, "This has affected the whole community. Palmetto is a spread-out community but very close-knit. The very culture of this area is about helping one another," Fontenot said. He said the Hope Alliance and St. Landry Foundation are working with the village's leadership, the local water district, and parish government as needs assessments are completed to determine how best to distribute any funds raised. Supporters can donate online at the Hope Alliance Palmetto Tornado Relief Fund page on the Community Foundation of Acadiana's website, or by mailing checks payable to the Community Foundation of Acadiana with Hope Alliance in the memo line to 1035 or 1035 Camellia Boulevard, Suite 100, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70508. St. Landry Parish President Jesse Bellard said families need things such as clothing, food, and personal care items to get back to a semblance of normal life while beginning to slog through the process of insurance claims and potential disaster relief assistance. He said in some cases, families didn't have insurance, or their insurance policies have high deductibles or coverage gaps that won't provide full support. Bellard said the St. Landry Parish community has an obligation to take care of its people. Quote, put yourself in their shoes. All of a sudden, you wake up tomorrow and you don't have anything, not even the clothes you had on your back the day before. Put yourself in their shoes and do what you can to help them, because if you're ever in need, they're going to do the same for you, he said. Van Reed, St. Landry Parish Director of Emergency Preparedness, said he and his team are coordinating with charitable groups and disaster relief organizations like the American Red Cross and Catholic Charities to assist families with immediate needs. There's also forwarding disaster assessments and reports to the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, so the state can determine if Saturday's severe weather should be declared a state disaster area. If it is, the state can request a federal emergency declaration from President Joe Biden, which will trigger assistance from the Federal Emergency Department agency, he said. Bellard has declared a local state of emergency over the tornado and severe weather event. Reed said the parish is asking anyone who suffered damage due to the tornado and Saturday's severe weather to file a report at damage.la.gov. The reports support the state's evaluation to determine if the storm event and tornado should be classified as a disaster. The online portal will close on Sunday, he said. Now, we will take a look at a series of crime headlines, brought to us by the Acadiana staff crime blotter. And we'll begin with this. Bail reduced for woman arrested in Bobby Charles case. An Iberia Parish judge reduced the bail set for a New Iberia woman who was arrested in February in connection with the Quan Bobby Charles case. Janet Irvin was booked February 9th on counts of contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile and failure to report a missing child, and her bail was set at $300,000 for failure to report count, and $100,000 for the contributing count. 16th Judicial District Judge Anthony Salimi reduced Irvin's bail Tuesday to $15,000 for the contributing to delinquency of a minor count, and $75,000 for failure to report a missing child, according to KATC. Total bail now stands at $90,000, and she will be required to wear an ankle monitor and have no contact with the victim's family if she posts bail. She remains in custody at the Iberia Parish Jail. Irvin is the woman that Charles' family says he left with when he disappeared from his father's Baldwin home on October 30th. On November 3rd, Charles' body was found in a drainage ditch along the headland in a sugarcane field adjacent to Ed Broussard Road near Lauraville in Iberia Parish. Our next crime headline reads, New Iberia City Marshal resigns after February arrest. Haywood Tony Miguez has submitted his resignation from the post of New Iberia City Marshal, the Louisiana Secretary of State's office said Monday. The Daily Iberian reported Miguez filed a notice of resignation Friday. According to the Secretary of State's office, New Iberia officials have until May 3rd to call a special election for the post. The next available election dates in the state are October 9th and November 13th, with qualifying dates of July 14th through the 16th. Miguez was arrested in February by Louisiana State Police on 8 counts of forgery, injuring public records, and malfeasance in office. Our next crime headline reads, Man arrested in Parkland Road shooting. 2 people were in the hospital, and a man was in custody after a shooting on Parkland Road on Tuesday morning, the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office said. David Cassell, 42, was arrested on 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder and a count each of second-degree kidnapping and false imprisonment by an armed offender. Deputies responded to a home in the 100 block of Parkland Road at about 1:45 a.m. Tuesday after a reported shooting and found the first victim suffering from a gunshot wound inside a residence. That person was taken to a local hospital for treatment, a statement said. Deputies searching the property found a camper where Cassell was inside with a second victim, according to the sheriff's office. Negotiators urged Cassell to surrender, while SWAT team members were able to enter the camper and rescue the second shooting victim. The person was also transported to a local hospital. Negotiators continued to speak with Cassell and eventually persuaded him to surrender. Both victims were listed in stable condition as of 11 a.m. on Tuesday. On to our next crime headline, which reads, Woman killed, suspect arrested in hit and run. A 67-year-old woman was killed in a Monday hit and run outside her home in Lafayette Parish. Sheila Evans was struck by a vehicle in the 300 block of Marigny Circle while standing outside her residence around 7:15 a.m. Evans was found beside the subsequent vacant vehicle after the driver, later identified as Jose Vasquez Tususo, fled on foot. The Lafayette Parish Office said in a statement. Evans was taken to a local hospital where she died from her injuries. Vasquez Tucio was found by deputies and returned to the scene of the crash where he was detained. According to booking records, he also lives in the 300 block of Marigny Circle. Vasquez Tucio was booked into the Lafayette Parish Correctional Center on counts of negligent homicide, hit and run driving, and driving without a license, the statement said. The crash remains under investigation. And now, on to our final crime headline, which reads, Man, 33, accused of multiple sex crimes. A 33-year-old man has been arrested on multiple counts, including rape, porn involving a juvenile, and sexual abuse of an animal, KATC-TV reported. On April 8th, the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office began investigating a complaint of indecent behavior with a juvenile in Jeanerette. During the course of the investigation, detectives learned that Corey Robichaux had been sexually abusing a juvenile for 6 years, according to a spokesperson for the Sheriff's Office. A search warrant was obtained for a forensic examination of Robichaux's cell phone, yielding additional evidence, the spokesperson stated. A warrant was obtained for his arrest. Robichaux was arrested and booked into the Iberia Parish Jail on counts of first-degree rape, pornography involving a juvenile, and sexual abuse of an animal. Bail was set at $1,110,000. With that, we will now move away from headlines in the Acadiana area to focus on headlines that cover the state of Louisiana at large. And our first state headline reads, Effort to push complicated tax swap gets underway. And this is written by Tyler Bridges. A complicated tax swap that would eliminate a popular deduction in exchange for lowering income tax rates passed its first step when it won approval from the Louisiana State Committee on Tuesday. But it still has a long road to travel before it can become law, which would ultimately require a vote by the people. Senate Bill 159, approved by the Senate Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Committee, is part of a package of bills sought by the legislative leadership that would no longer allow individuals and corporations to subtract their federal income tax payments on their state income tax returns. In exchange, individuals and corporations would be assessed at a lower tax rate. The changes would require a two-step process to become law. First, state legislators would have to approve the package of bills during the current legislative session. Then, voters would have to give a thumbs up in a November 2022 election, changing the tax rates enshrined in the state constitution. Under the legislation, the federal, individual, and corporate income tax deductions would disappear only if voters approve changing their tax rates. Supporters of the proposal say the final result would be revenue neutral, meaning the state government would collect as much as it does today, and most taxpayers would pay no more or less if the change takes place. Daniel Erspamer, CEO of the right-leaning Pelican Institution for Public Policy, based in New Orleans, said the plan to lower the top individual's income tax would make Louisiana a more attractive place to live and invest. Robert Travis Scott, president of the Centrist Public Affairs Research Council of Louisiana, a Baton Rouge-based think tank, noted that Louisiana is one of the only two states that allowed the full federal tax payment to be deducted on state taxes. Scott displayed a series of slides showing how Louisiana's top nominal tax rates are higher than those in neighboring states, although he noted that Louisiana's top rate actually has less of a bite because it kicks in at a higher income level than many other states. Jane Mahler, the executive director of the left-leaning Louisiana Budget Project advocacy group in Baton Rouge, was the only person who raised concerns about Senate Bill 159. He told the committee that although he supports reducing tax rates along with eliminating the federal deduction, he would rather the changes produce a more progressive system and raise more money for such priorities as early childhood education. Mahler pointed out that Louisiana has a regressive system in which poor people pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes than do the wealthy. That's because Louisiana depends so heavily on sales tax. The effort to revamp the tax system is being pushed by State Senator Brett Allain, a Republican of Franklin, and State Representative Stuart Bishop, a Republican of Lafayette. They are well placed to lead the charge because they chair the tax writing committee in their respective chambers. Allain chairs the Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Committee, while Bishop chairs the House Ways and Means Committee. Quote, "We're getting rid of a bad tax policy," Allain said in an interview, adding that the changes would raise Louisiana's ranking as a place to do business by such entities as the Tax Foundation, which is based in Washington, D.C. Allain also said the elimination of the federal deduction would mean that income tax changes passed by Congress would no longer automatically increase or decrease Louisiana tax collections. The massive tax cut Congress passed during President Donald Trump's term in office has had the surprising effect of boosting tax revenue in Louisiana because people were not able to write off as much. Governor John Bel Edwards tried to undertake similar changes during his first term. The changes were recommended by a blue ribbon committee that met through 2016. But his proposals died repeatedly, either on the House floor or in the Ways and Means Committee, which then had a different chairman, then State Representative Neil Amberson, a Democrat of New Orleans. The legislature did approve a constitutional change in 2016 that would eliminate the federal tax deduction for corporations while reducing their tax rate. Then, State Representative Walt Leger III, a Democrat of New Orleans, was the sponsor. But voters rejected the swap that fall, with only 44% supporting it. A linchpin of the Allen Bishop plan, eliminating the federal tax deduction for both individuals and corporations, would raise the state about $850 million per year. Their plan would offset that increase by reducing the top individual tax rate from 6% to 4.25%, the 4% rate to 3.51%, and the 2% rate to 1.85%. The changes would be carried out by Bishop's House Bills 278 and 274. State Representative Neil Reiser, a Republican of Columbia, who spent 12 years in the Senate on the Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Committee, is sponsoring the legislation that would collapse the corporate tax rate to a flat 6% from the current rate of 4 to 8%, in exchange for eliminating the federal income tax deduction for corporations. Reiser's measures are House Bills 275, 292, and 293, and will be heard by Ways and Means on Wednesday. Elaine has said that the new individual and corporate rates came from Edwards' Revenue Department and are designed to make the changes revenue neutral and to ensure that most everyone pays about as much as they do now. Now, we will take another break from our headlines, this time for the Today in History, famous birthdays, and the Daily Horoscope. We start with Today in History, which is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Wednesday, April 14th, the 104th day of 2021. There are 261 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history. On April 14th, 1912, the British liner RMS Titanic collided with an iceberg in the North Atlantic at 11:40 p.m. ship's time and began sinking. The ship went under 2 hours and 40 minutes later with the loss of 1,514 lives. Also on this date, in 1759, German-born English composer George Friedrich Handel died in London at age 74. In 1828, the first edition of Noah Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language was published. In 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot and mortally wounded by John Wilkes Booth during a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. In 1910, President William Howard Taft became the first U.S. chief executive to throw the ceremonial first pitch at a baseball game as the Washington Senators beat the Philadelphia Athletics 3-0. In 1935, the Black Sunday dust storm descended upon the Central Plains, turning a Sunday afternoon into total darkness. In 1960, Tamala Records and Motown Records, founded by Berry Gordy Jr., were incorporated as the Motown Record Corporation. In 1965, the state of Kansas hanged Richard Hitchcock and Perry Smith for the 1959 in cold blood murders of Herbert Clutter, his wife Bonnie, and two of their children, Nancy and Keon. In 1981, the first test flight of America's first operational space shuttle, the Columbia, ended successfully with a landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California. In 1994, two U.S. Air Force F-15 warplanes mistakenly shot down two U.S. Black Hawk helicopters over northern Iraq, killing 26 people, including 15 Americans. In 1999, NATO mistakenly bombed a convoy of ethnic Albanian refugees. Yugoslav officials said 75 people were killed. In 2014, in a historic policy shift, President George W. Bush endorsed Israel's plan to hold on to part of the West Bank in any final peace settlement with the Palestinians. He also ruled out Palestinian refugees returned to Israel, bringing strong criticism from the Palestinians. 10 years ago today, ABC canceled two of its longtime soap operas, One Life to Live and All My Children. 5 years ago today, the first of two strong earthquakes struck southern Japan. The tremors killed at least 50 people. 1 year ago today, President Donald Trump announced that he was cutting off U.S. payments to the UN health agency, the World Health Organization. Trump said it had not done enough to stop the coronavirus from spreading. Now we'll shift to today's famous birthdays. We begin with country singer Loretta Lynn, who's turned 89 today. Actor Julia Christie is 81. Retired Major League Baseball player and All-Star Pete Rose has turned 80 today. Rock musician Richie Blackmore is 76. Actor John Shea has turned 73. Actor Peter Capaldi is 63. Actor turned race car driver Brian Forrester is 61 today. Actor Robert Carlyle has turned 60. Rock singer-musician John Bell of Widespread Panic has turned 59. Actor Catherine Dent is 56 today. Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher Greg Maddux has turned 55. Rock musician Barrett Martin is 54. Classical singer David Miller is 48. Rapper DeBrat has turned 47. Actor Antoine Tanner is 46 today. Actor Sarah Michelle Gellar has turned 44. Actor and producer Rob McElhenney is also 44 today. Actor Claire Coffey has turned 41. Actor Christian Alexander has turned 31. Actor Vivian Cordoni is 28. Actor Skylar Samuels is 27. And finally, actor Abigail Breslin has turned 25 today. And now we shift to the daily horoscope. We begin with Aries, which is birth dates of March 21st to April 19th. Pace yourself and you will accomplish all you set out to do. Gravitate towards people who are willing to give back as much as they take. Strive for equality in all things. For Taurus, which is birth dates of April 20th to May 20th, moderation mixed with discipline and hard work will be your ticket to success. Walk away from temptation and remain focused on your long-term objectives. For Gemini, which is May 21st to June 20th birth dates, work quietly on your own until you are satisfied with the results. Presenting a well-prepared plan will encourage interest, assistance, and success. Don't lose sight of your goals. For Cancer, which is June 21st to July 22nd birth dates, you can reach out and get help, or you can figure it out for yourself. The latter will be significantly more satisfying, and the rewards yours to enjoy. For Leo, which is July 23rd to August 22nd birth dates, let your charm, leadership ability, and skills help you build your future. You can advance if you keep your emotions out of the equation and put your intelligence to work for you. For Virgo, which is birth dates between August 23rd and September 22nd, information you gather will change the way you do things. A chance to try something new will push you in a new direction. Stay calm, regardless of what others do or say. For Libra, which is birth dates of September 23rd to August 23rd, put your time and effort into personal growth, fitness, and expanding your skills and talent. Use your charm to bypass anyone who tries to stand in your way or take control. Learn as you go. For Scorpio, which is birth dates of October 24th to November 22nd, a change of plans will upset you. Begin your journey and continue down the path that beckons you, regardless of what others decide to do. Someone you least expect will have your back. For Sagittarius, which is birth dates of November 23rd to December 21st, reach out to like-minded individuals and start making plans that encourage safe socializing, fitness, and self-improvement. Jealousy and possessiveness are apparent. For Capricorn, which is birth dates of December 22nd to January 19th, set up a place where you can relax and develop something you want to pursue. Distance yourself from those who don't play by the rules or use inappropriate measures to dominate your time. For Aquarius, which is birth dates of January 20th to February 19th, take a deep breath and put things into perspective. Spend more time on self-improvement and less time worrying about what others think. Choose peace and love over discord. And finally, for Pisces, which is birth dates of February 20th to March 20th. Consider what you enjoy doing and find a way to incorporate it into your everyday routine. Refuse to let anyone persuade you into doing something you find taxing and unrewarding. And with that, we will now move our attention back to headlines from across the state. And we begin with this. Louisiana halts Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. State health officials hit pause amid United States regulators' investigation into rare potential side effects. And this is written by Emily Woodruff. Federal regulators recommended a pause Tuesday in using the single-dose Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine while they investigate reports of rare but potentially dangerous side effects, prompting Louisiana and other states to immediately halt administering the shots. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and Food and Drug Association said the pause came after reports of unusual blood clots in 6 women ages 18 to 48, starting 6 to 13 days after their vaccinations. Regulators and public health experts stressed that the cases were only a tiny sliver of the almost 7 million Johnson & Johnson shots that have been administered to date. Dr. Janet Woodcock, acting commissioner of the FDA, said the pause was expected to last only a, quote, matter of days. It was enacted in part so that the FDA could, quote, prepare the healthcare systems to recognize and treat patients appropriately, said Dr. Ann Schuchat, Principal Deputy Director of the CDC. Quote, right now, these adverse events appear to be extremely rare, Schuchat said in a joint statement with Dr. Peter Marks, Director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. COVID-19 vaccine safety is a top priority for the federal government, and we take all reports of health problems following COVID-19 vaccinations very seriously. The association between the clotting and the vaccine is not yet clear. Johnson & Johnson said it was aware of the reports of blood clots, but said no link to its vaccine had been established. The company also said it would delay the rollout of its vaccine in Europe. Louisiana officials halted use of the shots Tuesday morning after the release of the federal guidance, and the medical providers moved quickly at vaccine sites to replace Johnson & Johnson vaccines with those made by Pfizer and Moderna. Quote, we do not yet know whether these reported cases of blood clotting were caused by the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, State Health Officer Dr. Joe Cantor said in a statement. This temporary pause would give the public and providers confidence the system of monitoring and safety checks are working as intended. Cantor said the decision to stop using the one-dose vaccine temporarily won't slow the state's inoculation effort, at least in the coming weeks. The state was not expecting a large bump of Johnson & Johnson doses as production issues have already slowed their rollout. Just 8,000 of the 119,000 doses shipped to Louisiana this week were from Johnson & Johnson. Quote, numerically, this is not going to be a big dent, Cantor said. He called the pause frustrating because of the ease and popularity of the Johnson & Johnson shot in Louisiana, where public health authorities are starting to face more problems finding people willing to receive the vaccine than with getting enough supply from the federal government. Still, Cantor said, pausing is the prudent step to ensuring safety. Quote, when you get a signal like this, you have to hit pause and you have to investigate, he said. Hopefully, it's a short pause. But with the stakes as high as they are, the last thing you want to do is threaten your credibility. Some health experts worried the halt, even if temporary, could have a chilling effect on vaccine enthusiasm. Already, vaccines have slowed in Louisiana, which ranks in the bottom 4 of all 50 states for percentage of the population given at least one shot, at 30%, according to federal data. Dr. Julio Figueroa, chief of infectious diseases at LSU's Health New Orleans, said he's worried, quote, about all vaccines being painted with the same brush, even though the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which rely on a different mechanism to encourage the body to produce antibodies, have not been associated with clotting. Figueroa said people who develop side effects such as headaches, shortness of breath, and leg or abdominal pain 6 or more days after the shot should call their doctor. These symptoms should not be confused with initial vaccine side effects that occur 1 or 2 days after the shot, he said. Quote, "These things don't start right away," Figueroa said of the more worrisome symptoms. "If you've got the vaccine yesterday, whatever side effects you're having are not related to this issue." He added that people should keep the handful of reported blood clot cases in perspective. Quote, "They are very rare," he said. "It's literally 1 in a million." According to the FDA and CDC, the clots occur in veins that drain blood from the brain. Simultaneously, patients experience low palates and blood fragments that normally form clots. Typically, blood clots are treated with an anticoagulant and as heparin, but giving the drug to people with low palates can be dangerous. Of the 6 clotting cases, 1 was fatal. It's unclear why the reactions might be happening to men more than women, but Figueroa said women tend to have more anti-immune disease in general. At Ochsner's health vaccination event at Tableau Restaurant in the French Quarter on Tuesday, about 50 people had come in for a shot by 11 a.m. Health workers pivoted quickly after the announcement. Matthew Malachowski, Ochsner's pharmacy director, carried out the Johnson & Johnson dose in a white cooler shortly after the event was supposed to happen at 7:30 a.m., and returned with Pfizer doses in less than an hour. Quote, "It's frankly easy to return the Johnson & Johnson product back to a refrigerator," Malachowski said. "We'll store it centrally where it will be safe while the Department of Health and decision makers come up with a plan." And now, we will move to our final headline of the day. It comes from the world of sports, and it reads, "Solid approach. Cutting down on strikeouts, big key to UL's recent hitting surge." There are a lot of ways to explain UL's hitting barrage since those 2 fateful practice sessions Coach Matt Deggs has referred to on several occasions just before Sun Belt Conference play began. At the time, his Cajuns were batting just .241 as a team. Coastal Carolina was about to visit Russo Park for a 4-game series, and the Cajuns had just completed a rugged non-conference stretch with TCU, leaving town having won 2 of 3. Fortunately, no midweek games allowed the staff to get back to the basics. Since then, it's been like a completely different offensive attack. Quote, "Just having a really good approach and being sold out to the approach, and playing with a boatload of attitude and confidence and expecting to hit," said Deggs, whose Cajuns, who currently sit at a 20-12 overall record and 7-2 in the Sun Belt, currently lead the Sun Belt West, heading into a road series at South Alabama this weekend. Since those 2 hard practices, UL is batting .304 with 82 runs, 26 doubles, and 16 homers over an 11-game stretch. The most obvious difference is cutting down on strikeouts. Through the first 21 games of the season, UL struck out more than 6 times in 20 games, including double digits in 13 of those games. Over the last 11 games, UL has struck out 6 times or fewer in 6 games, including double digits only 3 times. Quote, "More than anything, it's really shortening up and trying to work inside out behind the baseball with 2 strikes," Deggs said. "We've been able to put together some really extended at-bats and put the ball into play and keep the pressure on." Cutting down on strikeouts has produced other benefits as well. The lineup has also done a better job of executing the short game, especially bunts and hit and runs. Quote, "What goes hand in hand with all that is our ability to execute has gone up exponentially," Deggs said. were executing on command just about anything I put on. Suddenly, it's fun making out a lineup, even when a gut feeling tells you to experiment a little bit. Quote, "Yeah, that's a good feeling," Degg said. Like I had no doubt the lineup I put together Sunday was going to score, even though it was a little different. We need to get some looks at some different guys and keep some other guys that are going good confident. We were able to do that. On one hand, not facing staffs like Mississippi State, Southern Mississippi, and TCU helps evaluate the offensive numbers. But on the other, the experience gained from facing those arms has helped as well. Naturally, a huge part of being successful offensively goes back to confidence. But Deggs also contends those two fundamental practices made sure UL's hitters went back to the right mindset in the batter's box. Quote, "That benefits the offense from the standpoint of now I've got confidence," Deggs said. "A base hit, that's not where I'm drawing confidence from. I'm drawing confidence from having a great approach, being able to execute to help the team win. It's not from a stat. That's what we're seeing." And now that the offense is starting to meet high preseason expectations, don't expect Deggs and his coaching staff to let up in their aggressive training at all. In fact, it's actually time to go even further. Quote, "Sometimes when you're scuffling, you keep it more simple," Deggs explained. "And a lot of times when you're on a streak like we're on, that's when you keep the pedal to the metal and you keep pressuring them on stuff." Before we end our program for today, we will take a look at the funerals in the Acadiana area. There's only one to report, and it is for Lois Domingue, with service at the Delome Chapel of the Flowers at 1 p.m. And with that, this has been Local News Live for April 14th, 2021. I've been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope that you will join us again tomorrow. Have a great day, Acadiana.